we do need the students to have, like Amy was saying, that willingness to commit to this being a successful program. We will walk them wherever they need to go academically, and we will provide things like icebreakers and team building activities, and we'll give them all the tools they need, but they have to be willing to engage.
Welcome to the Please Raise Your Virtual Hand podcast. We are so delighted to dive into the exciting, challenging, and sometimes messy world of virtual learning, where nothing is impossible and redefining student success is possible. Low Country Education Consortium aims to open up new possibilities for parents, students, and our business and industry partners as we fundamentally transform learning for students. We will hold your virtual hand throughout this series, where we will discuss the world of virtual learning and how we are preparing our students for college, careers, and jobs that haven't been created yet. Virtual learning may be new to you, but it's here to stay. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Please Raise Your Virtual Hand. I'm your host, Matt Novielli, and we hope you've enjoyed learning about some of our elementary teacher teams at Low Country Virtual. Today, we will venture into the middle school realm with Amy's team. We all know the middle school is very different from elementary school, and joining us today to elaborate on life as an LCV middle school teacher, we have Rebecca Page.
It's so good to be here.
Leanne Callett.
Thanks for having us.
And of course, our co-host, Amy McKenzie.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, guys. We are glad to have you guys on. I'm excited to talk with you guys. So, thinking about the middle school, what inspired you to become middle school teachers in the virtual setting?
So, for me, that question really has two parts. Why did I want to be a middle school teacher, and why did I want to be a virtual school teacher? Let's start with middle school. Middle school is its own beast. It's very different, like you said, from elementary school, but these kids are not quite high schoolers yet. They have their own personalities and they're trying to come into themselves and discover who they are. And I just really resonate with that. I know that middle school can be a tough time for a lot of kids, and I feel like I do my best work with this age group. Then as far as the virtual school goes, I love technology, and I have my master's degree in instructional technology. I find that I am doing my best work when I am using technology to help enhance my lessons and help collect data from students. So I guess that's why I'm a middle school virtual teacher.
That's great, Amy. And for me, I currently teach math here at Low Country Virtual, but I really like middle school for some of what Amy said, but also just they come with a foundation into middle school math with just, their basics, add, subtract, multiply, divide. But really in the middle school, we take it and apply it so much more to the real world and real life experiences. And we can really dive deep and get fun with them at this age. It's so fun. I love getting their personalities, interacting with them, creating these amazing bonds. And in middle school, either they're for you or they're against you. So when you can get them for you, it is like, it's an amazing high to just walk life with them the whole year. When they're with you, when you're a team, you literally build a team, you create a vision for them, and they will follow you.
That is awesome. It's kind of like your collaborative community that you have. And I love what you said about them being able to start applying those skills. And, I get to see it in the sense of the elementary level. So I work with them on those foundational skills. And then once they get to that middle school level, it's so cool to see that you guys have the application of it. They start to put those skills to use that they've learned throughout their whole elementary school year.
So I accidentally became a middle school teacher. I was a kindergarten teacher for 10 years, and I really loved it. But I relocated, and when I relocated, they didn't have kindergarten available. They had second grade. So I switched to second grade, which I was kind of nervous about because to me, those were big kids. And so I switched to second grade. And I was there for 4 years, and maybe my 3rd day of 2nd grade, someone asked, would I go back to kindergarten? I said never, because as much as I loved it, I didn't realize when I was in it how hard it is, because you have to teach them everything, like, literally
Yes.
everything.
I
And,
couldn't do it.
I
Tie
mean,
your
it
shoes,
was
zipper
yes,
your jacket, life skills.
you literally had to teach them everything. So then I get to 2nd grade, and I had a class full of 2nd grade co-teachers, because I was like, "Man, they're so mature." But, like, coming at it from a middle school perspective, you guys are probably like, "What?" So then we get to middle school, and well, the reason I switched to middle school was because when COVID happened, my school needed a volunteer from each grade level to go virtual. And I didn't really want to, honestly, go virtual, and I definitely didn't want to go to middle school, but I also just the dynamics of our school, like, I needed to step up and do it, so I did, and I was petrified. But one of the 5th grade teachers there told me, here's the secret about middle school. They're actually little kids in big kid bodies. So you do anything you would do in 2nd grade, you do it with the middle schoolers, it's going to work. You see somebody doing a good job, you praise them to death, and they will all start doing a good job. And so I started doing that, and it was a game changer. So anyway, that's how I became a middle school teacher. And I do love it because, like, the other teachers were saying, they are finding themselves, and I remember when I was in middle school how awkward it was, like, it was a hard time. You've got a lot of things going on with your body, mentally, and I can really relate to a lot of them, so I think it's great just being able to build relationships with almost like little mini adults, you know?
And that is, you can say that one consistent thing across everybody's answers, that you have that chance to make a big impact on their lives. Not that you don't do that in other grade levels, but in middle school, when you're trying to identify who you are and yourself as a person, and you have someone that is a role model, a guiding person in your life, that makes all the difference. And you get to identify who you are while someone is holding your hand doing it. And I love what you said about having the little kids in big bodies, because it's so true. Well, I mean, even you think about high school kids, even as adults, when you receive praise or somebody appreciating and listening to you, taking the time to actively listen to you, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. You can't tell me that you don't enjoy that, because that's what it's all about. So it doesn't matter how old you are, when you are teaching them that way, you're going to have success.
You know what? I was going to say sometimes I feel like a little kid in a big person body, so I can identify with that with our middle schoolers. It's very true.
You never grow up.
No.
It's
My
true.
90-year-old grandma said, you will always feel like you're 18, Rebecca. And she was like 90 years
Oh.
old. So I feel like you're always going to have this young spirit, this young mind, and just using that.
Yeah. All right. So, thinking about middle school, what are some of the challenges you face as a virtual middle school teacher, and how do you overcome them?
I think that one of the main challenges of a virtual middle school teacher is trying to find that balance with their parents or their learning coaches. A lot of times learning coaches get in this mindset of my child is moving on to middle school, they need to start taking that responsibility for themselves, and I need to allow them the responsibility to work on their assignments and to try to do the right thing first. And that is a wonderful mindset, and we do need to teach our middle schoolers how to do that. But there is a balance. We can't go from 5th grade, where the parent is helping them on every single assignment, to 6th grade, and the parents are checking in once a week. So just finding that balance, I seem to notice that there's a big challenge with that. And what our team has done a really great job of doing is teaching our learning coaches at Low Country Virtual how to find that balance for their individual child. Every child's going to be different. Some 6th graders can take that responsibility, do all of their assignments for a week, and have a Friday check-in with mom or dad or grandma. But not all 6th graders can do that. So we work really hard with learning coaches to try to help them figure out where their child is.
Exactly, Amy. Some students are going to need even help, like getting their schedule in order, setting timers and getting online when they need to, and then reaching out for help to their teacher. So being a self-advocate, and then some kids are still starting to learn how do I ask these questions to my teacher live when my other peers are there in that room. So, they don't have to necessarily ask the questions right in the live, with you. They can do small group breakout rooms. They can come to office hours. So just knowing our students and our families and helping our families, like Amy said, getting the kids what they need when they need it. And some might need a little bit of hand holding the beginning of the year. But then I feel like also as the year progresses, parents can start to move away from directly helping and walking them through these processes to that scaffolding, releasing of that gradual release of responsibility onto the children, and then just more and more allowing them to be independent as they end and reach the end of 6th grade. And as they go into 7th grade and 8th grade, the same process can be the same.
So Rebecca, do you see that where they start at the beginning of the year to the end of the year, you have a drastic difference in their maturity and their level?
So even then from the first week, it's like really teaching them, like, this is your schedule. This is what you should do. These are good habits to have as a virtual learner. These are some strategies, set timers, so-and-so. Talk to their parents about helping them set timers, making sure they're there on time, going over our Google Meet expectations, just having that expectation of like, this is where, we need to be. This is what, then this is how to get there. And then giving them flexibility and grace that first 9 weeks of the year, because they're just learning so much, so many new things if they're a first year virtual student, but that gradual release as they go throughout the year. And especially that first 9 weeks is a really a growing opportunity.
Rebecca, I love that you said giving them that grace, because that is so important when they enter into middle school. They're going through a lot personally and, just developmentally. And then we have to recognize that in the virtual setting, we need to give them the grace to learn our expectations, to find that balance of, how much do I need to ask for help? How much can I do independently? So I think that's a super important role of a middle school virtual teacher.
I think the biggest takeaway that I'm having right now is that when I first started teaching virtually, basically you were doing all the things that I had to do for myself to be a successful teacher. I needed to set timers. I needed to learn how to be a virtual teacher. And that's the same thing we can see students doing as well.
Exactly. A lot of times we need to recognize that they're still kids. And as an adult, I need to learn a new routine. So of course they will need to as well.
Yeah, and I think another thing too that grown-ups may not realize is they just think, "Oh, I have these kids who are of the age that they should be responsible and they should be able to handle this on their own." But they're not realizing that this is kind of a new experience for the kids as well. And just like with our middle school kids, even if they're very responsible, they really do need someone checking behind them just to make sure that everything's complete, and then like the other teacher said, scaffold them away from that. So by the end of the year, it may be just like a Friday check-in that the learning coach is checking to make sure they did what they needed to do. But at the beginning, you kind of do have to hold their hand, because this, if they're new to the program, especially if they're moving to a new grade, just they have to get caught up on all the different routines of that particular grade and of our school if they're new to the school. So they do need some support, definitely, regardless of ability.
Right.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you have to understand also, we're in 2023. We are competing with YouTube. We are competing with every gaming device. And I feel like I have to be this amazing YouTube teacher. I seriously am. I'm like, oh, welcome. Like, I am trying to compete with the video game sitting probably right there on another screen. They're trying, like, literally, as a middle school, they're like, my mom's not here, game, while I'm kind of on my Google Meet, attendance, but I'm gaming. Like, I see it in their eyes. I see the flickers. Like, I mean, we are competing with gaming devices and YouTube. So we have to it's a challenge. So we have to kick up our live instructions, because we are competing for their attention. If their parents are not there, they most likely will want to be binging on Netflix or getting on their nearest game.
And that's another thing, like Matt said, like when employees and adults started working from home, I mean, how many employees and adults had to teach themselves, I need to have the discipline of doing my job when I'm supposed to be doing it. And I think that there's a lot of adults out there that couldn't do that. I tell people that I work from home and they say, "Oh, I could never. I would sit on the couch all day." I'm like, "Well, that's why you don't work from home, and it's not for everybody. You have to learn those skills."
Yes. You have to have a schedule.
Yes.
Just like that's hard for us. Like, it's hard for us to know, like, especially starting out, you have to have a schedule. You have to follow your schedule. Like, I feel like we're constantly telling the kids the same thing because once you get that down, you're golden.
That's right.
And it's going to be hard to be motivating. You're going to have off days. You're going to have, and teaching the kids the same thing that we feel, you're going to have off days. You're going to have times where you're not as motivated, and that's okay. Like, again, giving them grace. And I tell them, I'm just real with them. Like, listen, sometimes you're not going to want to, but I don't ever say that I don't want to. I'm always like very positive. Okay. But I'm like, there's going to be times you're not going to want to, but you have to, and it's okay. I'm here for you. And I know you're going to have a bad day, a sick day. You're not going to want to, but like, I'm here to help you, and I'm going to make you want to right now. Let's do this.
We'll work through it.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a great conversation that you guys are having. So I want to know, how can parents or schools identify the students who would benefit from a virtual program?
So I think it's so important for students to have a strong foundation in reading, writing, and basic mathematics facts. Obviously, if they're very motivated to learn and they have that intrinsic motivation, that's not always a case in a student. So if they are intrinsically motivated to learn, that's one of the top.
That has to be huge, yes.
Huge.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's the top priority.
I agree. I think that academically, we really need our students to, number one, be intrinsically motivated, be willing to show up, be willing to do the work in our live sessions and also the asynchronous work. So if I was a parent and I was trying to decide if virtual school was right for my child, I would ask myself, does my child want to, or would they be willing to participate in virtual learning? When you're in the school building, it's different when you're trying to get children to participate, because you can sit next to them at their desk and say, just whisper to my ear and tell me, what do you understand? Whereas in a virtual setting, there's a little bit more on display. Of course, we have things like breakout rooms and small groups and office hours, but we also need those children to be able to participate. So I would ask myself, is my child motivated and willing to participate in an online setting? And then as far as socially or emotionally, when you look at the mental health aspect of it, we do a lot for our students to help them make virtual friends and feel like they're part of a community. So we need our students to be willing to participate in those types of activities. It's more than just teaching the content when they come into my classroom. I ask them to talk to each other. I ask them to problem solve together or to collaborate. So virtual students need to be willing to have their cameras on and unmute their microphones and say, I'm going to work with my classmates and I'm going to make new friends and talk to new people. So I think that's really important as well.
I love that, Amy. So true. It's so good when they interact with each other. They're growing. They're growing in that aspect, like you said, because they're participating in it. They're actually growing when they participate into those activities.
Definitely.
I was just thinking about this actually the other day, about how, like, in the physical classroom, you're able to walk around the room, and just by being in the proximity of a student, that can be enough to get them back on task. Unfortunately, we can't walk around our virtual classroom, and so we do need the students to have, like Amy was saying, that willingness to commit to this being a successful program. We will walk them wherever they need to go academically, and we will provide things like icebreakers and team building activities, and we'll give them all the tools they need, but they have to be willing to engage. And
Yeah.
that's what I think, that and being on grade level for the most part, those are like the two biggest factors, I would say.
I love that analogy of you just walking around the room, and Amy talked about whispering in the ear and just giving them that physical
proximity
connection and proximity is something that we cannot offer. And so many people thrive off of that. So that's why it's so important to have that learning coach to be that
Exactly.
with us while we're there too.
Right.
So they can get that physical proximity that we cannot provide virtually.
I love that you brought that up, Rebecca, because when we think about, is this student a right fit for our program? We're always focusing on the student, but we also have to focus on the family. Is this family and is this home the right fit for a virtual program? Is there a learning coach who can be there to provide the scaffolding and make sure that the child sets the schedule and signs into their live classes and works on their asynchronous work? So if I were a parent trying to decide if this is the right fit for me, you have to take in not only the factors of the student themselves, but also the learning coach and the home environment.
I think that's 100% true. And what it comes down to is, it sounds like you're a community that provides everything that a student needs to succeed, but you just need a family and a student that's willing to join into that community, and they will find success. As long as they want to be a part of that community, they will be able to be successful.
We try to. We really do our best. We try to provide everything that they need. And, we work together as a team. This 6th grade team, we really do work together to try to put every puzzle piece in its place.
And I've seen you guys work. You guys have done some awesome stuff over in 6th grade. So thinking about that, what kind of those learning styles do you think students find the most success with? So if we're looking at the student learning styles for a 6th grade, what would you say are the best ways that students learn?
I like to mix it up in my classroom. As far as learning styles go, I think you need to have a good mix in your lessons. You don't ever want to be stagnant. I don't want to only do note taking. I don't want to only show videos, and I don't want to only do one thing. So I need to meet all of my learners where they are. So that means in every single lesson, I try to mix in a little bit of different types of activities to really engage that student, so that I know that they're engaged in learning and understanding what I'm putting out there.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I like to mix it up and just give them lots of different outlets to show what they know. We use choice boards a lot, and that gives different learning styles the opportunity to show what they know in different ways, which I think is really important. And it's funny because every once in a while I'll throw in some kind of artistic project, and I do scaffold the project so that the kids that feel uncomfortable with artistic ability will still have some kind of option. But those are the activities that these kids love the most. Like, they love showing what they've learned using art and less, I guess, traditional outlets than like writing a paragraph.
Our students love to express
They
themselves.
do.
A lot of our successful students are the ones who really enjoy expressing themselves, whether that's doing an art project. We have some students who will make like comic strips or write short stories about what we're learning about. We've got some students who will go on code.org and make their own video games. So students that are successful in our program are the ones that like to participate and like to express themselves.
Yeah, I love that. They're so innovative when given the opportunity. They just will come up with maybe something that you didn't even think of, right? And you're just like, what? You guys are amazing. So again, exactly. Like in math, same thing. It's like I'm letting them see it in print or a video in action, or I'll make them learn a saying or a poem or a rap that helps them remember the concept. So just mnemonic devices, reading, responding, videos, dance, songs, it's all bringing it to life. And then
That's
those
great.
choice boards, like Leanne said, is great. Just giving them an opportunity to express themselves and express what they know in a different way.
And you guys have the opportunity to do that, which is awesome. That if you want and decide that they can express themselves through an artistic means, then they are able to do that. If they can write it, they can do it, which is the amazing feature that you guys have on your grade level. So thinking about that, can you explain to the audience what teaming in schools means?
So teaming in schools are when a group of students have the same teachers for math, science, ELA, social studies. that we share the same students, though I may only teach them math. The other teachers would teach them the other subjects, but we all share the same core group of students.
Why does LCV choose to use teaming?
My first year of virtual teaching, I used the same curriculum to teach fifth grade, and we didn't team. I had just one class of about 30, a little over 30 students, and I taught them all 4 subjects. I feel like Low Country Virtual's approach of using teaming is far more effective because I can completely dedicate myself to social studies while the other teachers are dedicating themselves to their subject so they can really, really get into the content. It's a lot more effective than trying to plan a lesson for each subject each day.
Absolutely. And that you become the master of your craft, the master of your
Exactly.
standards every single week.
Exactly.
Another reason I really love teaming is the communication aspect between adults. We are able to, and by we I mean the teacher team. The teachers are able to communicate with each other. We can keep on track of students when it comes to students that are doing really, really well, students who are maybe not doing so well. And also, it makes it easier for us to catch students that might be flying under the radar. Perhaps some of our gifted and talented students that might be underachieving to what they really have the potential of doing. Maybe we have a student who's gone 2 weeks in a row without submitting assignments. It might be hard for the individual teacher to catch that, but when you have a team of 4 adults looking at the same group of children, not a lot can get past us in that way. And we are so fortunate at Low Country Virtual that we have the ability to have teams. When you have a really, really large program and you have large classes of, over 30, over 35, maybe even 40 kids in a virtual class, you're not able to team. Logistically, it just does not work. So we're fortunate that we have the small class sizes, that we have the smaller grade levels so that we really can put more resources into each individual grade level so that none of our kids are flying under the radar. None of our kids are getting overlooked because each child has 4 teachers watching out for them, communicating with each other, and communicating with the adult at home to make sure that they're doing their best.
And I think just to piggyback on that too, just like all the kids have different personalities, we all 4 of the 6th grade teachers, we all have different personalities, and there are some kids that are gonna connect to each one of us, just based on personality types. So especially in this delicate time period of middle school, it's really important that these kids do have people, adults that they can connect with. And so this is such a good opportunity because if for some reason I'm not connecting with a student, I can feel confident that one of the other 3 teachers is probably connecting with them so they have that relationship. And we actually kind of know which students have a close relationship with which teacher. So if I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble getting someone to participate in class, I can reach out to the other teacher that I know has a great relationship and say, "Hey, what are some tips to help get this student a little more engaged in my social studies class?"
And that's so true. And most importantly, I think it touches on the other things that you guys were discussing with keeping the student attention and keeping them engaged through their lessons. And if you have the same person talking to you all day long, it is very tough to do that. But when you have 4 different
True.
personalities, you see 4 different people, you get those breaks in between to go and meet that next group of teachers and students, it makes your day much more engaged.
That's a good point too.
All right. So thinking about those students that you were talking about, what kind of support do teenagers need in the virtual setting?
I think it definitely depends on the individual teenager. It's, in 6th grade, they're we've got these preteens that want to believe that they are full-on teenagers, and then we've got some preteens that wish they were still in elementary school. So we've got a really big mix in 6th grade. They're going through that transition. So it really depends on the individual. But I think one of the most important things that we do for these teenagers in Low Country Virtual is that we provide the scaffolding. We start them off by giving them direct instruction on what we need from them. And throughout the year, we slowly back off so that they know what's expected. They know how to do what's expected. And then by the end of 6th grade, they have the opportunity to do it for themselves. So it's kind of a process of walking them through the grade as they're transitioning in their personal lives. They have to be transitioning in their academic abilities as well.
I also think it's so important knowing what changes are happening hormonally and in their brains. They're growing, they're changing, and so encouraging them, they're going to have, I guess I would say, like reactions to things at a more intense level. So that could be any feelings of excitement, but even some negative feelings like shame, guilt. So just managing those and teaching them that it's okay to have those feelings. Those feelings don't define you. And teaching them about themselves, about their brain is really important because knowledge is power. So when they know like that this is a feeling, or if it's conflict, this is a conflict I'm having with my parents or with a student or with my academics, right? There's a problem happening. Well, how can we get beyond this? There's a feeling happen. Well, what do you do when that happens? So navigating, I think, strong emotions, conflict, and just teaching them self-care.
Self-care, that's such an important aspect when you're a middle school teacher. We have to teach our students. We may not always have control of how we feel, but we do always have control over our actions. And so you might not be feeling great, but how can you still take care of yourself in that moment? I think that's really important. And it's really important in the virtual setting, especially because in the virtual setting, we don't want any of our students to feel isolated. We don't want them to feel like they don't have the opportunities to be social or make friends. So one thing our team does really well and really consistently is going through those social and emotional lessons of teaching them it's okay to have these feelings. Everyone has these feelings. Let's acknowledge them. Let's figure out what to do next.
All right, we heard about the learning styles, learning coaches, expectations. Now, I want to hear about how you build relationships with your students and build a sense of community within your classrooms.
I think one really important thing for us to remember is that even as adults, we need these icebreaker kind of activities to get to know each other before we feel comfortable putting ourselves out there with academic content. So, a great example, I think, of something that I do every year is our first time doing breakout rooms. It's completely fun. We'll have a fun activity for them to do when they're in there that help them get to know each other a little bit so they're not just putting themselves out there with academic content to people that they don't really know. They don't know if these people are going to have anything in common with them or if they're going to like laugh at them or judge them. And in middle school, of course, they're like really worried about those things. So the more fun activities that we can do to kind of bond and get to make connections and realize we're all just people, I think that that helps a lot once we start actually moving into teamwork with academic content.
All right, middle school. So now, what are some of your team's goals for the future of LCV?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's really important to always be learning, developing, and improving. As a teacher, I always want to be up to date with the best practices. And as a virtual teacher, especially, I'm constantly learning new things to do with my students. But as far as a team goal, one thing that I love about our team, and I don't think we've said our team name. We're the Gators. So we're the Gators, and we've got some investigators, and we've got some navigators, and we've got some dominator gators, and our fourth class is called the Greater Gators. So we love our team, and we have a really great working relationship between the four of us. And every year we try to improve our efficiency, improve our communication with each other and with the families. So I think looking forward to the next school year, I think one of our biggest goals will be to reevaluate, say what are we doing that's working and what are we doing that can make us better. Just an example of what we did from last year to this year, we changed out how we send out our newsletters. Last year, we did our information a little bit differently. And this year, we send our newsletters over the weekend. And on Monday mornings, we review our newsletters with our students so that we know Monday morning at 8 a.m., every single sixth grader is getting a briefing on what they're going to be doing that week, what assignments are due that week, what special events are happening that week. So that was a big improvement for our team. And I feel like that's worked out really well. So I guess our biggest goals will be to review it and see what can we make even better for next year.
And I think it would be so fun to even I know I've polled my students about math, what do you love? How do you learn best about math? What do you wish we wouldn't do so much of? Or, poll the students about that. But even knowing the little stories you hear about me and I hear about you from the kids' point of view, and share that with each other of hey, this is what I see, or it appears to be a trend, something that again is a positive, but can also be a negative, and just something that you see in me. I think just sharing, if we just share that, I know we haven't probably done that. Hey, I love the way you XYZ, give each other some praise, 3 praises, and one of those growth opportunities, right? So
I would love to do that.
I think we should do that.
I'm totally down for that. I think working as a team, it's really important to be able to have that open, honest communication with each other. And that's something that our team definitely does. The Gators definitely, we rely on each other and we communicate really well.
We want to extend a heartfelt thanks to Amy, Leanne, and Rebecca for sharing their invaluable insights into the incredible work they are doing with 6th graders at LCV. If you haven't already, be sure to follow Low Country Virtual's Twitter account at LC Virtual School to stay up to date on the inspiring contributions of all of our exceptional educators in the community. Thank you for tuning in.
This podcast is written, hosted, edited, and produced by a team of educators from the Low Country Education Consortium. Amy,
Caitlin,
Matt,
and Meg
are proud to bring you
Please Raise Your Virtual Hand.